Ronnie Bincer, are you ready to fearlessly question today?
I sure hope so.
Well, I hope so too, because it would be awkward if you're not, but we'll move past it if you're not, and we'll do our best. Um, Ronnie, I have to say, just kind of to warm people up a little bit, I go way back into watching you on Hangout. So this is like a student meets the teacher kind of moment for me, where I think I went back to watching. I was on Chef Dennis's show a couple weeks back. I said, you and him were the first Hangout on air I ever watched, and to watch you guys like bring in a comment live that I said like it was ridiculous, and that kind of hooked me on this whole thing. But I'll try not to be too fanboy on you today, so we'll try and have like an even keeled conversation. But how you doing today, Ronnie?
I'm doing well, thanks. And I had mentioned to you in the film strip, this is my third so far today. So sometimes it's a busy day, and today was one of them.
So if you're a little out of gas, if it's a little subpar, that's what you're a little hung
No,
out.
no, 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 no. No, I was trying to find my way through the various things to make sure I was here on time.
I mean, I won't hold it against you if you are. I mean, believe me. I mean, that's like crazy. I would say, Joe, you know what? Forget it. Like, just take it easy. I'm not coming on.
No, no, no. We're here to fearlessly question things.
All right. Um, well, first, why don't we catch everybody up and tell us your story as it relates to fearlessly questioning, hanging out on air.
The fearlessly questioning part, I think, is where we're going to be focusing on things that we talk about other than what I normally do. And I normally talk about technology and the social impact of what we're doing. Actually, I think we'll probably lean a lot more on the social impact of what we're doing when we use this tool, this Hangout on Air, what I call the magical communication tool. So we're going to question some of the reasons why people use it the way they do, and not necessarily just how, but why. The big why questions.
And yeah, it's I mean, we've got the Hangout helper himself on here, so we're going to kind of go at you. I don't want you to take any of this personally, obviously. We'll put that out there first. But Ronnie, first, slightly fearless question. What is the most useless activity you can't help but do?
Okay, that's a good one. That came out of left field for me. The most useless activity I can't help but do is checking notifications and saying, yep, there's another 50, or there's another large number of them. Am I going to look through them all, and then figuring out I don't have the time to do all that and reply or respond to everything. So that's probably one of the most, I wouldn't say it's totally useless at all times, but it's just one of those things that I get drawn or sucked into.
I was going to say, careful, you're going to just really upset a lot of your followers there because you just said that their notification is useless. So I mean,
No, not theirs. Everybody else's.
everybody else is well said, sir. You should. Are you planning on running for office soon?
No, no, no.
All right, that was a well quickly responded answer there. Um, well, okay, so let's just go ahead and we won't pull any more punches. We got you warmed up. We've already got the left field question taken care of, and the main question that this whole thing is set up around. If there's other ones, I don't know. I guess I've got a few, but this is really it. Um, are we really getting ahead of ourselves with Hangouts?
Ahead of ourselves in the sense of where we think what we think they're doing for us, or
Yeah, like our expectations, what they can ultimately realistically achieve with the technology, with the integrations that exist right now.
good one. I think some people probably are, but some people aren't, and it depends on how they're wanting to use the tool and what their expectations are. So if we sort of define, I think, what some of those expectations are, I think we'll be able to know what camp we're in. So in my mind, one of the key components of this tool that we're using right now to talk about the tool is its ability to build trust. Right? So trust is one of the factors. I think that if you are focused on that your goal is to build trust with this tool, then no matter who's watching or how many are watching, doesn't really matter. It's more the fact that you're putting your face out there, you're able to respond on the fly to questions like, you're going to throw some more out of the left field for me, and people will know, does Ronnie really mean what I've heard him say before, or I've seen him say, or those kind of things, and you can help build that level of trust using this tool.
I love the T word. It's one of my favorite words, and I think so many people overlook its importance in that, we're always so focused on strategy, and we forget that that is the ultimate strategy. You win somebody's trust, you win their business. And Hangouts, again, I think is very effective in doing it, but they just get caught up in some of the numbers. Um, what is your expectation then for Hangouts?
My expectation for Hangouts is a little different than I think a lot of people feel. And so that's why we're here on the Fearlessly Questioning show to talk about the differences. So here's one of my takes. The Hangout on Air tool is probably less important than most people think, or at least what I think. I believe that Hangouts,
So now we're
not
getting to the good stuff. Now we're
yeah,
getting to the good stuff.
not the broadcast kind, but the type where I'm meeting with a person one-on-one or in a small group with up to, say, 10 people. That is the place where relationships are built. Then, when someone isn't able to fit into that room because there's not enough space or they don't have the opportunity to meet with somebody one-on-one, then when you're doing your Hangout on Air broadcasts, this is the second layer where people are able to then say, you know what, I did meet him once before, or I've read some of his stuff or her stuff before, and now when I see them live broadcasting, it solidifies that idea that, yeah, they know what they're talking about. Or, yes, they are an authority in that area. They're an expert. They seem to be, they have their act together. They're staying consistent. And that, I think, is where the big Hangout on Air reach has more opportunity. But I really do believe that doing regular Hangouts, Hangout video calls with people, is one of the best places that people downplay in the ability for us to grow in our networking and our trust.
And okay, so would you say then that a lot of people are reluctant to actually take that step and get into hang? Because I can't I can't even count how many times I hear from somebody, oh, this is my first hangout or whatever, and it's like they've been on the platform forever, but they don't actually start mixing it up with this thing.
I've seen a lot of people, and many people, well, you know this for sure, but those watching may or may not know. I train people. I teach people how to use Hangouts. We even come out with a new feature or tool to allow you to do that called allabouthangouts.com, where someone that's brand new can go from what we call Hangout Basics to total Hangout confidence. That confidence level comes from doing it. You can't just prepare everything without ever sticking your toe into the water. We have to get in and actually do it. And I do see people that are still reticent? No, that's not the right word. Reluctant
There you go.
to join into a Hangout video call, or if they do come in, they keep the camera off for some reason. And in my mind, if you're keeping the camera off when you're inside a Hangout, unless you have a very specific reason to do it, you might as well not really be there, because the whole point is this visual connection because there's a lot of nonverbal communication, just a ton of that happens in these environments, and that to me is what accelerates this process for trust. So when people are new and they've never tried it and they're a little bit afraid of it, then they feel less confident, and as a result, and I'm throwing out terms that many people have heard if they've seen me for a while, but they focus on the tech. They focus on the technology, and they forget what they're trying to communicate, their message. And so if we get to the point where the technology can truly disappear, then you're just in a place talking with someone or someone's. And that allows, I think, the real you to shine through. And that's what I think people are looking for.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get into that in just one second, but I'm going to remind everybody that is watching, if you want to toss a question in the event page for Ronnie, we're going to let you actually come in and ask it to him face to face, so you can go right toe to toe with Ronnie and ask him your own fearless question. Just use the use the hashtag camera ready behind that question, so I know that you are decent to be seen from the rest of the world. And we'll go ahead and the one that has, I guess, if we have multiple ones that are good, the one that has the most plus ones, we'll go ahead and pick that one if you're ready and present. We'll go ahead and bring you in. Ronnie, I think, and this is, again, if I'm borderline offensive with this question, I apologize, but do you think it has absolutely nothing to do with about the tech, and it's actually more about their hangups with just being on camera in general, and is their overall comfort level with that instead of the actual Hangout technology?
Well, certainly, there's at least two camps of people that are struggling with using the tool at all. One is they don't know that they can handle the technology, and two, they don't want to be seen on screen. They just feel that they're not presentable, or they don't like how they think they look on camera. I mean, years and years ago, people, there was, I'm old, okay, so I'll just acknowledge that right now. There was a thing called a cassette tape recorder. You ever heard of those, Joey?
Ronnie, I'm not that young, but you do look very youthful and vibrant, I must say. So
Okay.
don't put yourself down too much. And yes, my first ever Walkman was a Sony Walkman. I had the two tapes. This is gonna go way back. MC Hammer and Crisscross. For any of those that are familiar with those two young hip hop type. I don't listen to that kind of music anymore, but that's young joy. But continue.
Okay, so the point though was that when you listen to yourself on a cassette tape or a recorder, you didn't like the way you sounded, and you just never thought that's really how you sounded. It's like you're asking people, do I really sound like this? And so that's the perspective that I think a portion of people are stuck in, is like they don't like the way they sound, or they don't like the way they look on screen, and so as a result, this tool doesn't seem to make sense for them, and they're losing out on the ability to meet people and connect with people and build relationships in a much more efficient way than we've ever had before. So this is an opportunity for them, and some people just have to really push themselves to get past that fear. It's a fear.
Yeah, so we're touching on a whole different set of psychological hangups that I wasn't necessarily anticipating, but going deeper into that because I like it a lot. Um, as far as it all comes down to confidence and your ability to kind of manage that, how much of that confidence do you need? I mean, if you don't have enough confidence to listen to yourself recorded or watch yourself on video, you're not going to have enough confidence to build ultimately whatever you're trying to build with these tools anyways.
True. That's true. And so therefore there's the juxtaposition of challenges. I mean, we've got your confidence to build a business or help people draw attention to your business, and there's various ways to go about doing that. This tool right here helps you find other people that might be interested in that and can assist you with that. So you're building relationships with this tool. And if you aren't to the place where you think you're able to do that, then you'd kind of start to wonder, well, what are you doing? You know, what's your point of trying to get people's attention? And you'll end up being what I think a lot of people do online, is they dump links. They're a link dumper. They just come out and say, here's my latest post, and boom, there's a link and you're done. And in the past, I believe that had much more traction than it does nowadays. There's just too much noise right now. And so you or me, we focus on people that put information out there that we decide we like or we know or we trust as the first layer of things that we're going to pay attention to. And a lot of other stuff will just kind of stream by. So I think we need to build those relationships. We build that trust so that we can get people's attention. Otherwise, it's pretty hard to do.
So we'll take a break in the action right now, and we're gonna let you can kind of towel off a little bit if the sweat's starting to beat up there, Ronnie, and we're gonna let you turn the tables on everybody and ask them a fearless question of your own, something you've always wanted to know the answer to, but we're just a little unsure of the response. Now is your big shining moment.
Okay, so here it is. Phew, toweled off. It's amazing how fast this has already gone. Here's my big question for you out there watching, whether live or recorded. In the social world, the social media world, there's a lot of information that comes to you regularly, and a lot of it is free. My big question for you is, what is the tipping point when you decide it's time to invest in what this person's offering versus just following and trying to glean as much out of them as you can from the free stuff? What's the tipping point? What makes that difference for you to decide to purchase something from that person, assuming they have something available to purchase?
Well, feel free to provide Ronnie with some of your answers. We'll sprinkle them into the show as they come in. That's a good question, Ronnie. I don't know that I have an answer for that. I would say
it's a tricky question, and I'll let you finish what you're about to say. The reason why I think it's really tricky is I believe certain culture things happen, and many people expect. Well, for example, I'll just use me as an example because I'm clearly in my own head. if I don't make income teaching or helping people do this Hangout thing, which is what my products are about, at some point, I'm going to have to move on to something else. And then my free skills that I give to people, my free tips, will be gone because I need to pay my bills.
Yeah, and that's exactly that talking about expectations has kind of been the B plot to this whole thing so far, and there's a lack of realization on that standpoint too. Of they don't realize that you can only get that stuff for free for so long until the bill comes due. Um, I would say that you probably have a couple different camps. One would be the people that say, "Well, I'm going to take the free stuff for what I can and do what I can with it. I don't need to pay for that stuff. I'm smart enough. I can figure out. I can fill in the gap." So I guess it's
Mm-hmm.
there's never really a rule of holding too much back or giving too much away because you don't want to start making those kind of classifications. But and then I think there's a lot of people that just kind of wallow in apathy, I would say. And it's that one in the middle that would be paying, and just how many other people are there?
Right. But then my question specifically, if I'm going to ask it of you, because you're throwing it at me, what what is the tipping point? What makes that choice happen when you've been following someone, you've decided you like them? What is it that causes you to make a purchase decision?
I always get at least one question asked to me during the shows. Believe it or not, I don't know if that's a trend, but I will play your game, Ronnie. I said that last week. I can't remember who asked me the question last
What
week,
do you
but
mean I'm not supposed to ask you questions?
no, you're absolutely you're allowed. I won't kick you off the show yet. It depends on how tough they get. Um, no, so I think there's two levels. So one, it's where you're feeling a need that is absolutely so essential that I can't afford not to, or two, where you've provided or done so much for me that I feel utterly obligated to at least contribute in some fashion. Now, maybe it could be the fact that the contribution levels just aren't adequate, or if somebody maybe would not feel that they could meet the minimum contribution level that they could make. Like, okay, I'm not going to spend $300 on a course, but I would drop 25 or $30 if you're selling a book or something.
Okay.
I don't know. I was completely unprepared for that, so I could be entirely wrong, and everybody could be throwing things at their screen at home, but I don't know. So we'll hop back into the questions here really quickly, and following that theme, and with the Hangouts on air, and I'm guilty of it just as much as everybody, of saying how great they are and what I think they can do. But are we misleading or possibly overselling business owners on these benefits, on what they can do?
Hmm. I know, well, at least I feel I'm not, because I'm not in the camp of those that do a lot of hype. And so because of that, I'm not saying this is going to affect your search results in 10 minutes. I tell people, or I guide people to know that this is a long haul process, and it's a process of building an audience. And once you've built your audience, then you have a much better chance to actually communicate to them and have that help get spread out, and then it can make an effect on the search results and things like that. So if people are clear with that there's a process, and they understand a little bit of the steps of the process, then I don't think we're misleading them at all, because truly, in my mind and in my heart, this is a magical communication tool. We did not have this 3 years ago. And now that we've got it, we can use it to our benefit and to benefit those that are watching. It's an incredibly valuable environment for not only building trust, but also learning. People can learn huge amounts of information in a short period of time, and they can take that and run with it. And it's everybody's got their own TV broadcasting network. How you use that network is really up to you. And so for a business, if they use it well and they find ways that resonate with the people that need to know more about that particular business, I think it's huge. It's phenomenal for what they can do.
Yeah, and I love that because there's so many interesting businesses out there that I think could be leveraging it in a way that they're not. I when I don't do this, when I'm not doing this show, I sell insurance for my family's insurance agency. So that is inherently not all that interesting, and I'm not making excuses for me not being creative with it. But I feel like there's like a ton of different industries, like I mean the music business being one of them. That there's so many different applications, and we talked about it in a previous hangout of just the different ways that can happen. Um, is it just a lack of imagination on their part, or lack of initiation? I guess initiative.
Oh, it could have been initiation as well. So I would say there is potentially a lack of imagination, but there's a lot of opportunity to watch what other people do. I was just in another hangout earlier today, and it was private, so a lot of people didn't see it. But the broadcast, it was a private broadcast. We were talking about one of the ideas of finding out how other people do things, and then getting, pulling out from those what you like and what you think is going to work for you, and then experimenting with that and seeing what the response is. So if you're not looking around to see what other people are doing with these tools, and you think that you've got it all, then there's a good chance you will be lacking some imagination or methodologies that could be useful for you. And many of us do try to tell people this is what you can use the tool for, here's another idea what you could use it for, etc. There's a lot of people that talk about why, and not as many that talk about the how, and that's where I've sort of camped. That's where I staked my claim and said, okay, I'm going to be the guy because I can help people with the tech learn the how, but I definitely know a lot of the whys and the whats as well. But if people aren't looking for those, then they're going to potentially try to shoehorn this into something that may or may not work for them, and if it doesn't work for them, they might just give up. And to me, that's premature.
Yeah, and we'll pick up on that in a second. We've got some answers coming into your fearless question. Lon McClure says value plus trust plus need. So that's pretty good. Zara is sympathizing with you or empathizing with you. I can never figure out which one is right, but she says she knows a lot of people who have stopped for the no income reason. Um, and then Andrew Hatchett says, I'll buy if I already trust the person and want to support what he's doing. Um, so I mean, kind of all along the same lines, but I think what people are still missing is there is that moment, what you were talking about. They might not even be consciously aware of it, but what is it that actually allows them to pull that trigger?
Yeah, that tipping point thing.
Yeah, it's a
But those
pretty
are
well. I guess let's put it this way, Ronnie. If you and I knew that more than what we did right now, we probably wouldn't be talking to each other, and that's one of my favorite jokes to make because it's very true.
Well, we could be still talking to each other because we
We just be a lot
appreciate.
more wealthy. That's we just have
Yeah,
like
there you go.
just like money. Like I'd have a desk made of money, and that's what we would be doing the show with. Um, but that's a little silly. So I guess one of the things that gets me the most upset. That might be a strong word, but and one of the reasons why I set up this whole show is because you hear people talking about, wanting to do their hangouts. They want to get these big numbers, and they want to get sponsorships, or they want to get, the show picked up, or just a lot of crazy, ridiculous type stuff. And I mean, is any of that even viable or possible?
I think some of it's viable and some of it is possible depending on the audience. Again, I'm just coming right back to one of the things, audience building, to me, is one of the key parts that's missing or lacking from a lot of people that are trying to do these hangout things. And besides the technology of not using the right tools, like the rant part that you had with me recorded earlier where I don't like some of the tools that are built in automatically and automatic on by default, if you get past that, even then, if people don't have an audience that's interested in what they're doing or showing or talking about, then I think it's pretty unrealistic to think that someone's going to sponsor you and pay for you to talk to people that aren't interested.
Yeah, okay. I think I like that. I do want to get this. I was reading this. So I was a little distracted with. I wasn't ignoring you entirely, Ronnie, but I wanted to get to Roxanne's question here. She says, my community likes one-on-one. They also are spread across time zones. It's difficult to have hangouts. I'd love to talk face to face, but we usually just text.
Yeah.
I
And
don't
it,
know. That feels like a little bit of an excuse to me, Ronnie. I'm going to be hard on Roxanne a little bit.
Well, I can tell you that, let's say in my first 2 years of using the Hangout tool, I was on so many Hangout video calls with people literally all over the world that sleeping was difficult. I didn't spend very much time sleeping. And it was useful, but at the same time, it's a little bit tiring. You get worn out. So I can appreciate what she's saying when they're on different time zones. If you're able to sort of isolate a certain amount of time during the day and say, hey, let's do these video hangouts during this time frame, if you can make it great and focus it on that, I think it's still beneficial to do that if you can.
So I want to toss this idea out because I got you here and you're not going anywhere for at least a few minutes. And this is kind of, again, what are we using it for? And we're talking about, you're saying how you think the non-hangout on air version of it is actually more powerful, which just kind of shoots my whole headline to crap. But I'll forgive you for that. And it's the idea of why not just hold. I guess I would add the on-air component with it, but why not just hold like an open office hours
Mhm.
and say like, hey, listen, I'm gonna just do this at this time once a week, once every other week, and we'll put it on air, and then it is recorded, it is available after the fact. People can learn from the conversation, but just let anybody come in and have that conversation, have that access, because. And what we're going to do here in a second is breaking down that wall of allowing people that access. Like we just build up these walls so high, we're like, I don't have the time for that. Wouldn't that not be something that is ultimately really beneficial, but also would help scale the time and effort that you have in it?
Yeah, the Hangout on Air, I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying that most people think that's where they should start. And to me, that's the mistake. I think people should start in a Hangout video call, getting used to being in front of people and talking with them one-on-one or in smaller groups. And then when you do your shows, it's a much more smooth transition. You're now in a place where you're very comfortable, and whether there's 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people watching, it doesn't really affect what you're doing because you've gotten into a rhythm. That's, to me, some of the differences, and I think a lot of people start with the Hangout on Air because that's the more visible part. And as a result of that, they think that's really where it is, and if it doesn't work for them the way they want, they leave it too quickly. Okay, all that to come back to your other question. What was your question?
What was my question?
Yeah.
My question was about like using it for like an open office hours type
Okay.
thing, and
Yes.
putting that on air. That's something that I kind of want to do for this show. Like do like a wrap up like
Mhm.
after the show. Like do a post show. Like hey everybody that was like listened or watched. Like you want to come and like talk and we'll just have a little conversation. I think everybody could probably benefit from just opening their virtual door so to speak and then having that recorded so the efforts like I said aren't being entirely wasted on just those
Yes.
people.
Yes, and I believe one of the tools that we use within this environment allows people to come in without or it's not the right word, without coming in. I mean, we can bring their comment right onto the screen and address it and be part of the communication, the interactivity that I like to say is great here, without them necessarily needing to be in their camera-ready environment on the film strip. But I do like the idea of open office hours. Um, but again, if you do that and nobody knows about it or nobody knows you because you haven't built an audience or a following or you made connections with people, then it might not work out too well.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously this is like, so I guess the hardest part is, and this should have been, I guess we should have had an audience building 101 episode prior to this so we could have fully,
Well, I didn't drop my bomb on you to tell you that I think that was the most important part that people miss out on.
the whole building of the audience.
Yes, yes.
So then, okay, well then fine. So I'm sitting in the audience, I'm thinking, all right, Ronnie, I'm listening to you. You're the hangout helper and you're telling me a chicken and the egg scenario here. Which one should I, because isn't the hangout supposed to help you build the audience in some aspect?
Yeah, but only once you get to a certain point. I have always taught for those that have seen me
Well, then
do
real quick,
this.
what's that point? I don't know if you're
The
going to answer,
point
but
is go to other people's Hangout on airs that are in an event environment where you have people that are commenting and interacting with the show in the comments and start interacting with them. And then start following some of them, see what they post about. Are they interested in the same kind of things you are? And then you build, in essence, circles, groupings of people that have similar or shared interests, and from there you can start to see more and more of them in other Hangout things, and it's like a crowd. You're following together other people that are doing broadcasts, and then it's much simpler for them to accept your invitations to come to your stuff of a Hangout on Air because they know you now.
Okay. Okay. Well, because I mean, I guess when I say open office hours, I mean like you don't need to fill the panel, right? Like I mean, if you had like 2 or 3 people and you
Sure.
did it regularly, and you created an event and you had a couple hundred people in your circles, I mean, I think more of this is an indication of the people that just aren't comfortable just kind of taking a leap and saying, "Listen, this sounds interesting. This dude's opening it up. I'm going to hop in." I think there's just so many people that aren't willing to do that.
Yeah, you're opening it up in that way, but it's still a broadcast, right? It's still going to be a Hangout on Air, not just a Hangout video call.
Well, I guess I would start let's say I would probably start without the on-air feature, and then as I built it, then I would probably take it on air to a certain point. Like if I'm somebody like you said, starting from scratch, because I did that like probably a year and a half ago. I had like 3 4 people that would come pretty regularly, and some people would come in just blindly, and that was fun. It didn't happen that often though, but I think that's the thing is like the expectation that somebody's not going to do that because they're just not, like we said, coming back to the very start, is that they're just not comfortable.
Right. Yeah, I believe that your strategy is good. In other words, start with the Hangout video call and get open office hours going with that, and then at some point turn it into a Hangout on Air, because there is going to be a percentage of people that might come to the Hangout video call that won't show up when they have to check that box that says they understand they're going to be broadcast.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and get our fearless question participant on here with us, Ronnie.
Okay.
Technically, Eric Bain won the +1, I guess, contest, if you will. I don't know that he's around. I haven't seen him floating in the comments, so he might have won something without actually getting to claim his prize. So Eric, might not be your day. But Sally Sue Ember, I believe, has tossed out quite a few questions. And if she's available, I'm going to try and get her in here real quick.
Okay.
And Ronnie, I'm going to ask you a question while I'm going to pretend like I'm not doing that. And really, kind of wrapping this thing up. And as we try and put a bow on it, we've kind of gone all across the board here on this thing. At the end of the day, tech aside, Hangout platform, what do you want somebody to walk away from today with in understanding how to actually find that confidence to do this thing, whatever it is, whether it is Hangout on Air or whatever?
I would like people to. I'm a lover of the tool. Okay, I like what it does. I like what it can do for people, and the relationship opportunities to me are just incredible. And that's why I like this tool. And so what I would encourage people to do, or I hope you can walk away with, is the idea that the tool can help you reach out across the world, no geographic boundaries, and meet people and get to the point where you start to introduce new people into your life that bring life to you, and you bring life to them, and then you start building a relationship. And one of the ways to get past a fear factor is to do a Hangout on Air by yourself. Just do it and record it. Or maybe you do have one friend that you'd feel comfortable doing it with. Get them in it and do what we call an unlisted Hangout on Air broadcast, and then go back and watch that. And then do it more than once or twice. It's like looking in the mirror and practicing a speech. You've got the ability to record what you're doing, so you can always go back and review it, and don't delete it. That's a big key. Don't delete it. Keep it around so that you can come back to it later on and say, look, I really have improved since I started trying to do this a while ago, and now, yeah, you know what, I'm ready. I think I'm ready to go. And then you can move it into more of the public.
How's it going?
And right on cue, I think she timed it pretty good here. So you're just wrapping up, and Sally has joined us here for the last few minutes.
So now I want to put up my lower third, I have been trained.
Well, welcome to the show, Sally.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, Sally, you tossed a couple questions out. I'm not quite sure which one you specifically wanted to ask Ronnie, but feel free. He's right in front of you right now. Have at him.
Hello.
Hi, Sally. We can hear you. Maybe you're not able to hear us.
Now I can hear you. Hi. Sorry.
Okay, good. No worries.
So, Sally, I was saying just really briefly, I'm not quite sure what question you wanted to ask, Ronnie, but it's all up to you. You got the
Well, if
time.
we're really talking about the Hangout interface that isn't the extra apps, which Andrew Hatchett so lovingly corrected me on, saying that maybe Ronnie isn't the person to ask about, say, the double bubble or the toolbox, then what I do want to ask about is the feature, I want to call it, although it's a sucky feature, that's called Invite More on the viewers box that doesn't frigging work, and I want to just throw it across the room sometimes. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Can you describe? Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but describe to me when you say it doesn't work. What is it
Well,
doing?
so I have a bunch of people I've put into a circle,
Okay.
and then I go and try to invite that whole circle. And it says, cannot send invitations, or invitations could not be sent because one or more people has blocked it or doesn't exist or dropped their account. I don't know. It doesn't explain. It doesn't tell you which one doesn't work. It just denies the entire batch. It is useless. It just makes me furious. And then I have to go through and try to figure out, like, do 3 at a time and see, oh, did those 3 work? Oh, did those 3 work? I mean, it's ridiculous. Why can't they improve it?
I haven't run. I had way back when run into some issues with the invite more button, meaning inviting more people into a Hangout on Air broadcast.
Right.
It's actually not into the broadcast, but into the actual viewership or the audience of the event. You're inviting people
The
to come
audience.
view. Right.
Correct.
And that, to me, now works without issue, partly because of the number of followers I've got, so I'm not limited anymore where I used to be as to how many people I could invite. Or
No,
how
it's
many.
not the numerical limit. I'm
Okay.
not running into numerical limits.
So
I
if
can
you're.
keep inviting people, but there's just some person in this batch
Mhm.
that isn't working, and it screws up the whole batch because Google doesn't distinguish.
Yeah. Let me give you, I guess here's a tip. I would go through your circles, and the ones that don't have profile pictures are more likely to have problems. And the ones that definitely show just sort of it looks like that Gmail envelope, meaning they're basically just an email address in that circle, I would remove them from the type of circles you're trying to use with the invite more button. Because inviting emails works on a one at a time. But
Okay.
when they're part of a circle, those tend to be the culprit that causes, and I agree, it's silly, but it does cause the whole thing to fail rather than saying, okay, we're going to invite those we can and not those we aren't able to.
Right. Right. Okay. I totally get what you're saying, and I can go through and do that. I haven't gone through and done that, although I believe I don't have any email ones, but I have a lot of what we call blue heads.
Blue heads, right. And I'd
Right.
start first with the emails. Just try to clear those out from those circles you're thinking. You can always duplicate a circle and then use one version of it to try to do this invite more thing. And if you pull out all the emails, that might just be the trick right there.
Thank you. And I just want to answer your other question. I was recently in a very bad accident and unemployed and don't have any money. But if I did, I would pay you. I think you're an expert. I think you know a lot. I've learned a lot from you, from your free things. And I say this to you and to other people that are helping people on the Hangout platform. You're invaluable to this community. And you and Martin Shervington and Melanie Hall and Andrew Hatchett and Michael Daniels, I could go on and on. You are the people we learn from.
Well, that's
And
great.
we need you, and we appreciate you. And those of us who are too poor to pay you, it doesn't mean we don't want to. I just wanted to say that.
Well, I appreciate that. That's great. Thank
And
you.
when I strike it rich, I will spread the wealth.
Excellent. One of the things that people in the situation that you are can do to help those of us that are trying to make a living doing this is help spread the news. Share
I
it.
do.
Yeah, share it to people because you probably have contacts that maybe could benefit from purchasing a course on how to do Hangouts.
I do, actually, and I just had a hangout yesterday with someone who said she wants to learn, and I'm about to send her my list of here's who you learn what from.
Fantastic.
And you're definitely on that list. And that's been my role. I don't know if you know this, but I have a hangout that I do once a week. I'm an author, and I converse with other authors. And without exception, every single one I've had on my hangouts, it's their first time.
Wow.
So they don't know anything except what I tell them, and I only learned 6 months ago. So I'm not an expert, I'm still learning, but I can teach them enough that we can do a hangout. And then some of them would like to turn up and become a host at some point, and
Right.
they'd like to learn more. So you're one of those people that I know I learned so much from you. You don't know that I did, but I know that I did.
Well, that's great. And so you are in a rich environment of people that may benefit from purchasing a course from someone like me. So that's great that you're able to do that.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes, and some of them actually could afford it even better.
Yes. Very good.
Not everyone I interview is as poor as I am.
Sally, I appreciate you stopping in to ask Ronnie a question. Ronnie will be sending you a custom autographed headshot that he has. I've seen them. They're spectacular.
Oh, no, please. I couldn't bear it. What I want, Joey, is for you to play us a song. I've been eyeing that guitar, and I am seriously asking you to play us a song.
Sally, I wish I came prepared for such a request, but unfortunately, I will have to respectfully take a rain check on that. Maybe I'll work something out to where I can, I guess, and let the audience kind of hear my musical talents, what's left of them. But
I am completely disappointed.
Maybe Joey, when you do your open office hours, you could offer that.
We'll just have a little serenade session. I'll just say, come in.
Well, it's something you do as part of it.
Yeah.
I have it. You're going to make your own intro or your own outro, and it will be you on the guitar.
Sally, if you listen to the podcast, I actually had a song custom written for the podcast version. I was going to write it myself, but I have two little kids that have let my abilities deteriorate too much. That would take me too long to do it. So, but that actually was something I was going to do. So you are inside my head a little bit.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so do you want me to hang up my little red phone now?
Yeah, we're going to finish up with Ronnie, but I do appreciate you stopping by and look for that autographed headshot. I'm serious. He's going to send it.
Great to see you, Sally Sue.
You're welcome. Thanks. And just call me Sally. The Sue
Sally,
is
okay.
a Google thing.
Okay, well,
It's
great
a
to see you.
long story. I'm just Sally. Thanks
Okay.
a lot.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, Ronnie, I'm gonna. Sally opened a whole new can of worms, and we're gonna end on this, and I'm gonna try not to make it ridiculously out of control. But you asked the question, so I guess you kind of have it coming about the whole. People don't want to focus on their ideal client and who they are and what they can afford and not afford. Would you agree to that?
You're grouping people all into one big bucket. Maybe you're going to say most people or many people?
No. So so a lot of people so many people don't really understand the characteristics of who can ultimately buy from them. So like what Sally was, her situation, she can't, like she said, she's not in a position to buy. So it's creating content that appeals to the person who has the means to like you said, purchase.
But Sally does have reach to people that could afford it. So it's still worth communicating to Sally, even though she's not able to necessarily buy. If she trusts me enough to recommend me to other people when they ask about how do you start this thing up and how do you make it work well, then she has definite value for my target audience.
So I'm going to say, is that maybe just a little bit of wishful thinking that makes us feel good?
It could be. But I know that referrals are part of business, and in fact, word of mouth is one of the most valued way to do things. And in essence, what we're doing here when we're talking through a Hangout is we're allowing us word of mouth almost. People communicating with us and they're talking. Someone might know Joey, they don't know Ronnie, or vice versa, and this communication helps communicate. That was silly. This method of communication helps that word of mouth to be spread, and it's not just from someone you know, but now it could be someone that you're watching and starting to trust. So I do believe the social platform environment that we're in allows people to share what they've found valuable with others, and that could cause a sale. But it's not at that perfect target, but I do believe there's value to it. And maybe I am fooling myself. We'll see.
Well, because I only ask that because I come from an industry where referrals are so ridiculously overvalued. That being insurance, where people think like these things are the ultimate sale. But ultimately, someone's cousin Ronnie down the street. I shouldn't say Ronnie. Your name's Ronnie. Someone's cousin Sal down the street. They think because he needs insurance, he needs to talk to me. But cousin Sal, he couldn't. I couldn't get him insured with 8 different insurance companies. You know what I mean? So I guess the big drum that I like to beat with Hangouts and with whatever content we're creating, we actually, if we're good enough at it, we can create it to be specific enough to where we only attract those people and obviously spread. I guess I might be in a little bit of negative space on the whole social thing, but you can feel free to save me from this rant at any point.
I don't know that we can target to that degree of accuracy those that are interested in our stuff at this point in time. I think it's a broader brushstroke, and it's self-selecting. People decide, are they interested in what it is that we're talking about, and then they choose to follow from that point. I just don't know that we're in the space, like for example in Google Plus, we don't have the ability to choose who gets to see our stuff. We can try to influence that, but we don't have that ability. And if you're simply saying that all we ever talk about is for that target audience, and that's it, I actually do that. I'd say the majority of the time. I don't do a lot of posts about my dog, okay, because I don't think that's part of my target audience.
I might be in the minority here because I'm getting it from Andrew Hatchett as well. He says, no, it's not wishful thinking. It's a statement of fact. I promote several products I can't afford. That makes me valuable to the producer of that product. I will kindly agree to disagree with that, Andrew, but we will save that topic for another day. Ronnie, let's end on a positive note. I think the most important thing you said was towards the beginning of the show about building relationships and the Hangout tool itself and Google Plus itself. Really, I think people ask me about what am I ultimately using Google Plus for. I think it's because it's to build relationships in a way that you can't. Whether it's with colleagues within the industry that might ultimately provide you an opportunity that becomes business. I think we're so focused on that person that's going to be the sale, as opposed to maybe connecting with somebody who might introduce you to somebody. I'm actually going to be eating my words here in a second, really quickly.
It sounds like
yeah, it is. So on a networking basis, I guess what I'm trying to say, not on a sales basis, but to meet the people that are going to inspire you to do better things, as opposed to maybe, like you said, the Google Plus ecosystem is not necessarily in that point where they're all that willing to pay for things at the moment. So should you be more focused on capitalizing on those relationships and using these tools to do that?
I think most people should, and many people do. And partly when I say I think that is because the people that I've circled are acting that way. They're not just spammers. I don't know how else to say it otherwise nicely. And there's people going to be in any environment that can abuse it, but if you have the ability to change who you see in your circles, you have a better chance to see the people talking about what you're interested in. And that, to me, is a big part of why Google Plus is the place that I've decided I really like from a social platform, because it's based on interests first, and then we build our personal relationships. So we have mutual interests, things that we both share. Then we start building a relationship. It's a longer lasting relationship, or a more deep, meaningful relationship, in my opinion, than just based on the fact that somebody was a friend of somebody.
Well, we will leave it at that, and we will try not to ruffle any more feathers this evening or this afternoon. Ronnie, you've been so kind and gracious and been a very good sport. Where can people find more about you?
They can find this right there. TheHangoutHelper.com is one place, and if you're interested in learning the Hangout tool set, I'd love it if you'd go visit allabouthangouts.com. And we've got free stuff as well as the paid courses to learn how to use the tools. Allabouthangouts.com or thehangouthelper.com. And I hope to see you somewhere soon.
All right, Ronnie. Well, hopefully we don't, at least I don't get banned from doing any more Hangouts. I don't think we will, but it was a good time. I appreciated it. And if anybody wants to hear what fearless question Ronnie is most afraid to ask himself, well, I'm going to drop a link in the event here in 1 second. But head on over to fearlesslyquestioning.com/getfearless, and you will get Ronnie's answer along with every other guest that has been on the show. Tons of great people. I think we're up at 28 now. You're number 28. Not to brand you with a number or anything, Ronnie, but.
Yeah. 28.
It's a really good one, and a lot of it runs parallel to what we were talking about today. So feel free to head on over to there and grab that as well. But Ronnie, appreciate you taking the time. We're going to get out of here, and we'll catch everybody on the next one.
Yes. Thanks for having me, and bye to everyone that's watching live or the recording. Great to be connected with you.
All right. Take